Man, Matthew really is my favorite book. I was trying just to pull out a couple verses, but it's just so good. So, this is Matthew 7. Judge not, that you be not judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when there is a log in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Do not give dogs what is holy, and do not throw your pearls before pigs, lest they trample them underfoot and turn to attack you. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks it will be opened. Or which one of you, if his son asks for a bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a serpent? If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who ask him? So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them, for this is the law of the prophets. Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will recognize them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes, or figs from thistles? So every healthy tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bears bad fruit. A healthy tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a diseased tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus you will recognize them by their fruits. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day many will come to me and say, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and do many mighty works in your name? Then will I declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house. That was funny timing. But it did not fall, because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. And when Jesus finished these sayings, the crowds were astonished at his teaching, for he was teaching them as one who had authority, and not as their scribes. There's so many good parts to this. So here, Jesus is talking about discernment. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will recognize them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes, or figs from thistles? So every healthy tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bears bad fruit. This is a good warning. Sometimes we meet people and everything they're saying seems right. It seems like, they've read the Bible and they know what they're talking about, but their works don't show it. Their fruits are bad. The tree is unhealthy and it produces bad fruit. You meet a person, they go to church every Sunday, and they're in the church, but the church is not in them. And so you see them speaking badly about other people, stealing, just doing unhonest things, right? And so you think, wow, this must be the way a Christian is, or this is what Christianity is like. But Jesus is telling you to have discernment. If you know the word for yourselves and you open up and you read, then you'll know what a good tree looks like, and you'll know what good fruits look like. And you'll be able to discern, look, this person looks like a Christian, they say they're a Christian, they go to church, maybe they even have a small group, but what they're doing, what's coming out of their mouth and the work of their hands is not good. It's bad. The tree is bad. Jesus is telling us here, you hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. When we focus so much on the sin of others, sometimes we fail to see our own sin, because we're so focused on that little speck that we want to take it out, that we can't see that there's a log in our own eye. We're blinded by our own sin, and we're hyper focused on someone else's sin. That's not our job. Judge not, that you be not judged. Now, this is not to say that we should not have discernment and know what is right and wrong. The Bible tells us clearly what is right and wrong. It is not to say change your morals, twist the words of the Bible to accommodate your sin. It is not to say that. Judge not, that you be not judged. For the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. When we see someone else in their sin, and maybe their sin has been exposed, but ours hasn't, and now we think we're up on a platform where we can talk about their sin, and we can convict them of their sin, because our sin is less, or it's insignificant, or maybe nobody sees our sin. That's not our job. Jesus is telling us, if we judge others harshly, we will be judged harshly, because there's not one of us who's sinless. They wanted to stone an adulteress, and they came to Jesus and they said, well, she's an adulteress. The law says that she has to be stoned. But Jesus sees the heart, and what he was teaching them in that moment is that the way that you judge other people is the way that you will be judged. He said, he who is sinless, throw the first stone. They realized, well, I'm not sinless. I'm not going to throw the first stone, because they felt that conviction. They knew that Jesus knew that there was not one of them who was without sin. But the point is to have mercy, to have grace on people just like they have mercy and grace to us. Forgive so that we will be forgiven. We were not put here to be judges. We are called to live according to the word, look as much like Christ as we can, and we'll never be perfect. But we're not trying to look like other Christians. The example is Jesus. We're trying to look like Jesus. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, cast out demons in your name, and do many works in your name? And then I will say to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. Scripture is very clear that we do not earn our way to heaven. There's nothing that we can do that is greater than the sacrifice that Jesus made on the cross. To say that because I served in the church, because I was a missionary, because I helped people who were poor, to say that is to say that what you did with your hands is greater than what Jesus did on the cross. Here Jesus is telling the disciples he wants a relationship with us. And he tells us in verse 8 how to have that relationship. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks it will be open. He tells us how to have that relationship. And he says, which is very important, I never knew you. I never knew you. That implies a relationship. He's talking about a relationship. And what I was saying about depending on our own hands and our own works, Jesus is very clear here. Our works are not going to earn us to heaven. We're not going to prove ourselves to God. Thankfully, we don't need to, because he who seeks finds, he who knocks, the door will be open to. Thankfully, because of what Jesus did for us, we don't need to prove ourselves. That is the product and the result of a love for God. God says, if you love me, keep my commandments. So if you love God, you will begin to want to do his will. You begin to deny your flesh. Those works are the reasons that souls are gained and people go to heaven. But we're not going to come to the feet of Jesus with a list of the things we've done and say, this is why I deserve to go to heaven. There's one reason that we deserve to go to heaven, and that's Jesus and the sacrifice that he made for us. I do think about it often, though, because on this earth we are members of a community, members of a church, and it's very important to be a member and to be a group, to have community, to have that, to have mentors, to have pastors and people that you look up to. That's very important. When we go to the throne of Jesus, we stand alone at his feet. Your mom's not going to be there. Your best friend's not going to be there. Your mentor, your pastor. There's not going to be anyone else standing there. You have to stand before God. And scripture says, every knee will bow, every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. every single one of us will stand before the judgment throne of Jesus, and we will have to answer what we did for this short period of our life. Now, to enter heaven, we must confess that Jesus is Lord and accept the gift that he gave us. Lord, I know that you came to this earth. I know that you died on the cross for me. I accept that gift. Please forgive me of my sins and accept me into your kingdom, right? But what we're not going to do is stand at his throne and believe that because of what we've done, we're justified and we have right to make it to heaven. The only right we have is Jesus. Everyone who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock, and the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on the rock. Jesus Christ is the rock. His teachings are the rock. If we know the truth, we can't be swayed by a lie. If we know the truth that Scripture says, that Jesus says about us, we cannot be swayed by a lie. Now the enemy will try, and you will get in our ear, but if we renew our minds daily, we read the Scripture, and we know what truth is, then no lie can overcome us.